What's up, Guardians? Profane here. Thanks for checking out the video. Today we'll be going over how new light and returning Guardians can easily complete the Lost Lament exotic quest and acquire one of the most powerful exotic weapons in Destiny 2, the Lament Solar Sword, an extremely powerful and unique exotic sword that comes with the intrinsic trait called Banshee's Wail. While blocking, the Lament gets revved up, increasing its damage and giving it the ability to pierce anti-barrier shields. This gives the Lament a massively overpowered attack combo that is absolutely perfect at taking on bosses and champions, especially when you factor in the Lament's second trait called Revved Consumption, which will heal you as you attack an enemy. An amazing sword that will make for a great weapon for any Guardian going into Lightfall. With PlayStation users getting Beyond Light added as free plus content this month, the Lament will now be available for the first time for a lot of players. So with that in mind, we'll be breaking down all the steps and the best and fastest ways to complete them, so you can claim this amazing exotic sword for yourself. Before we get started, if you do end up enjoying today's video and find it helpful, then be sure to hit that like button below along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated. The Lament is only available through the Beyond Light side quest called the Lost Lament. To obtain and complete this quest, you will have to be an owner of Beyond Light, and you will have to have completed the Beyond Light campaign on at least one of your characters. Once completing the campaign, you will be able to obtain the Lost Lament quest by visiting Banshee in the tower, an exotic quest that has a total of 11 steps, with most of them taking place on Europa. The first of these steps require you to discover 3 dead exo bodies on Europa. There are a total of 9 dead exos on Europa, but the 3 that you will need to discover are located in the Cadmus Ridge, the Perdition Lost Sector, and the Concealed Void Lost Sector. Starting from the spawn-in location of Cadmus Ridge, the first dead exo can be found on the cliffside of a snowy peak, just south of the relay facility. The second dead exo will be found in the Perdition, just after defeating the Lost Sector's boss. And the third dead exo will be found in the Concealed Void, behind the wall barrier that comes down after defeating the boss and adds at the end of the Lost Sector. After discovering all 3 of the dead exos, you will begin step 2, which require you to locate the giant exo head that is located deep within the Bray Exo Science Labs. Once you're within the labs, you should have a navigation marker leading you to the giant Clovis Bray exo head, who you will need to communicate with to move on to the third step of the quest. After speaking with the giant exo head, you will have to defeat Vex with a sword while on Europa. A key point to know is that you do not have to have sword ammo for sword kills to count. Simply equip your preferred sword and go to town on all the Vex within this Lost Sector. Rinse and repeat the process until step 3 has been completed. Part 4 is where many Guardians might start running into some snags. While some players will already have this step completed, others will have to complete 3 separate Beyond Light side quests provided by Zavala and Varix, called Reclaiming Europa, Empire's Fall, and the Dark Priestess. Reclaiming Europa will require you to complete the Sabotaging Salvation mission. Empire's Fall requires you to complete the Aftermath mission. The Dark Priestess will be started from Cadmus Ridge and requires you to defend the fleeing fallen skiff. Then complete the Dark Priestess Empire hunt on Europa. After completing all 3 of these side missions, step 3 on the Lost Lament quest will be done, and you will transition into step 5, where you will need to complete an exo challenge. This is a portion of the quest that can be a bit tricky for some players. If you've never completed an exo challenge before, you'll have a new quest pop up on Europa called Old Secrets, New Challenges. This gives you access to the 3 simulation activities that are on Europa, but for the purposes of this quest, you will need to access the individual simulations through either the director on Europa or the mission banner while on Europa, not the playlist version, which is on a weekly rotation. Some players may still encounter issues with progressing this step, so if that happens to be you and you are stuck on step 5, you can try deleting the quest from your quest log and pick it back up from the quest kiosk next to the postmaster in the tower. Then try the simulation challenge over again and see if the step progresses. If it does not, you will most likely need to pick the quest up on an alternate character. The Lost Lament is an account-based quest. When you pick the quest up on a different character, you will still be at step 5 and will just need to complete an EXO challenge to progress forward. Step 6 requires you to defeat 60 total Vex with finishers while on Europa, so you'll want to head back to the Perdition Lost Sector. There's close to 60 Vex enemies that can be finished within this Lost Sector, so if you go through with finishers in mind, you should be able to complete this step in one run. Step 7 will require you to complete any variation of the Glassway Strike, with the simplest and fastest version being the one accessed directly through Europa's director map. When you complete the Glassway Strike, you will receive an exotic item called the Broken Blade, which leads you right into step 8 of the Lost Lament. You'll need to visit Banshee at the tower, where he will then ask you to return to Europa and complete the Bunker E15 Lost Sector, located in the Eventide Ruins. After completing the Lost Sector, you'll have a new mission banner pop up called Reforging the Past. This is a very fun mission, and not an overly complex one. You'll simply need to return the Broken Blade to the big EXO head, and protect Clovis Bray from the Vex attacks. There's some really cool dialogue at the end of this mission, and you'll definitely want to wait and be sure that the mission completed flavor text pops up on the left side of your screen before exiting out. This way, you won't have to repeat the mission over again. And now, all that stands between you and the Lament is a quick visit to Banshee to close out this exotic quest with the 11th and final step called Reforging the Lost Lament. From there, you'll be the owner of one of the most unique and overpowered weapons in Destiny, a true weapon of fantasy, and a perfect tool to use in Lightfall against any anti-barrier champions, bosses, and pretty much anything that needs to be sliced and diced with reckless abandon. That's going to conclude today's breakdown of the Lost Lament exotic quest. I hope I was able to address any issues and concerns that you've had with obtaining the Lament. If not, be sure to sound off in the comments below. A big thanks to Tatted 80s Baby for the terrific footage in today's video, and thank you for checking out today's video as well. If you enjoyed and found it helpful, then be sure to hit that like button below, along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated and both really do help support the channel. And until next time, Guardians, this has been Profane, wishing you all some happy hunting.